Daniel Rahman woke before dawn to the sound of rain tapping steadily against his apartment window, a soft but restless rhythm that felt strangely urgent. His phone vibrated again and again on the bedside table, pulling him from sleep. He reached for it without thinking, expecting a routine work message, maybe a client in another time zone needing confirmation. The screen lit up his dark room, and the moment he saw the notification, his chest tightened. A message from an unknown number contained only a photo. Daniel opened it, still half asleep, but within seconds the fog in his mind disappeared. The image showed his office, but something was wrong. A new banner hung behind the reception desk, displaying a company name he had never seen. Standing beneath it was Amir, smiling as he shook hands with investors Daniel recognized. Instantly, they were signing documents. Daniel zoomed in, his fingers trembling. The date stamp read from earlier that night. More messages followed. Screenshots of legal filings, emails announcing leadership changes, documents showing ownership transfers completed just hours earlier. Daniel sat upright, heart racing, trying to understand what he was seeing. The company he had built from nothing, the company he and Amir had grown together over 10 years, had been transferred legally into a new structure, one where Daniel's name appeared nowhere. He refreshed his work email and found dozens of unread messages waiting. Some were polite congratulations addressed to Amir. Others informed staff about a new strategic direction. One short message from the legal department confirmed the truth in plain language, effective immediately. Daniel was no longer an executive partner. For a long time, he did not move. The rain outside grew heavier, filling the silence of the room. His thoughts struggled to catch up with reality. This had to be a mistake, some misunderstanding. Amir would never do this without telling him. Amir was his closest friend, the person who had stood beside him when the company existed only as an idea scribbled on paper in a small cafe. They had shared risks, debts, and long nights fueled by cheap coffee and stubborn hope. Daniel trusted him completely. He called Amir immediately. The call went to voicemail. Daniel dressed quickly and opened his laptop, logging into company systems. Access denied. He tried again, carefully typing his password. Denied again. Every digital door that once opened easily was now locked. A cold realization crept into his mind. This had been planned carefully. Permissions changed, accounts reassigned. Nothing accidental about it. The sky outside slowly turned gray as morning approached. Daniel sat at the kitchen table staring at the documents on his screen. He read every line again and again, searching for something he had missed. The restructuring used clauses buried deep within partnership agreements. Clauses Amir had insisted on managing years ago because he claimed to understand legal language better. Daniel remembered laughing back then, grateful someone handled the complicated details. Trust had made things easy. Now trust felt like a weapon turned against him. At 9 o'clock, Daniel went to the office building anyway. Habit guided him more than hope. The familiar glass entrance reflected a tired stranger staring back at him. Inside, the receptionist avoided eye contact. A security guard approached politely but firmly and explained that Daniel no longer had authorized access. The words were spoken gently, almost apologetically, which somehow made them hurt more. Employees glanced at him from across the lobby, whispering quietly. Some looked confused, others looked uncomfortable. No one approached him. Daniel realized they had already been informed. To them, this transition had been presented as progress, not betrayal. He stepped back outside, the cool air hitting his face. The city moved normally around him, cars passing, people rushing to work. Life continuing as if nothing significant had happened. Yet Daniel felt as though the ground beneath him had shifted permanently. His phone buzzed again. This time it was Amir. Can we talk? The message read. They met at a cafe they used to visit during the early days of the business. The familiarity felt almost cruel. Amir arrived exactly on time, dressed neatly, carrying the calm confidence Daniel had always admired. He sat down across from him with a careful expression, neither defensive nor apologetic. "I was going to call you today," Amir said quietly. Daniel stared at him, waiting for an explanation that could somehow repair reality. "You removed me from my own company," Amir sighed, folding his hands together. "It wasn't sudden. I've been thinking about this for months." The words landed heavily. Months. While they shared meetings, meals, and plans for the future, Amir had already been preparing an exit that excluded him. The investors lost confidence, Amir continued. "They believe the company needs faster decisions, bigger risks. You hesitate too much." Daniel felt disbelief rising. "We built that caution together. It's why we survived when others failed." Amir nodded. And it worked, until it didn't. Opportunities were slipping away. "I made a choice to move forward." "You made it alone," Daniel said. Amir's gaze softened slightly. "I didn't want conflict. This was the cleanest way." Cleanest way. Daniel almost laughed. At the irony. Clean for whom? For Amir, perhaps. For Daniel, it felt like erasure. He searched Amir's face for regret, but found only certainty. Not cruelty, something worse. Justification. Amir truly believed he had done the right thing. "I trusted you," Danielle said quietly. "I know," Amir replied, "and I didn't do this to hurt you. I did it because I believed the company needed it." The conversation ended without shouting. No dramatic confrontation. Only silence filled with things neither of them could fix. Amir paid for the coffee out of habit, a small gesture that once symbolized friendship but now felt meaningless. Daniel walked out into the busy street alone as hours passed. Memories surfaced relentlessly. The first office with broken chairs. The excitement of signing their first client. Nights when they doubted everything but encouraged each other to keep going. Amir celebrating Daniel's birthday with a cheap cake during their toughest year. None of those moments felt fake. That confused Daniel most. If Amir had truly valued their partnership, how could he justify ending it this way? By evening, anger finally arrived, slow and controlled rather than explosive. Daniel replayed every recent conversation, noticing details he had ignored. Amir, taking more private calls, scheduling investor meetings without him, insisting on reviewing contracts alone. The signs had existed. But Daniel never looked for betrayal because he never imagined it possible. He returned home exhausted, dropping his keys onto the table. The apartment felt quieter than usual. Without work to focus on, his thoughts grew. Louder, he opened old company photos stored on his laptop. Smiling faces stared back at him, reminders of a life that no longer belonged to him. Friends called after hearing rumors, offering sympathy and advice. Some encouraged legal action, others suggested moving on quickly. None of their words reached the place where the real damage lived. Losing money or status was painful, but losing trust felt deeper, like a crack inside his understanding of people. Late that night, Daniel sat by the window watching the city lights flicker. Rain had stopped, leaving streets shining under lamps. For the first time since morning, his thoughts became clear. Amir had not acted impulsively. He had calculated every step. That meant Daniel's removal was not a mistake to fix. It was a decision meant to stay permanent. A question formed quietly in Daniel's mind. What happens when someone takes away the life you built? At first, the answer felt simple. Rebuild. Start again. But another thought followed quickly, darker and more persistent. Amir had taken everything while protecting himself legally and professionally. He would continue succeeding, praised for leadership. While Daniel carried the loss alone, the unfairness burned slowly. Daniel imagined Amir celebrating new deals, standing confidently in meetings, telling stories about growth and vision. Idea that life would reward betrayal felt unbearable. He stood up and walked to his desk, opening a notebook he had not used in months. He stared at the blank page for a long moment before writing a single sentence. Understand what really happened. It was not revenge yet, not fully, but it was the beginning of something. He began listing timelines, decisions, and investor relationships. He remembered conversations where Amir seemed unusually persuasive. He recalled small disagreements about risk that had grown more frequent. Each memory formed pieces of a puzzle he had never tried to solve before. Hours passed unnoticed. By midnight, Daniel realized something important. Amir had succeeded because Daniel trusted too easily. Trust had blinded him to ambition growing. Quietly beside him, the realization hurt. But it also awakened determination. Daniel closed the notebook and leaned back in his chair. The pain inside him shifted shape. It was no longer only sadness. It carried purpose now, a need to balance something that felt deeply wrong outside. Clouds moved away, revealing a clear sky. The city grew silent as most lights turned off, leaving only distant traffic sounds. Daniel felt strangely awake, more alert than he had been in months. He did not yet know what he would do, but he knew one thing with certainty. The story between him and Amir was not finished. And somewhere between heartbreak and clarity, the first spark of revenge quietly came to life. Daniel's days became structured around one purpose. He woke early, worked silently, and spent hours studying everything connected to Amir's new company. What began as curiosity slowly turned into strategy. He followed news updates, analyzed investor movements, and reviewed public filings late into the night. Every detail mattered. He wanted to understand how Amir had won and where the weaknesses were hidden. The anger inside him no longer burned wildly. It sharpened into focus. He stopped talking about the betrayal to friends because explaining it made him feel powerless. Planning, however, made him feel in control. He rented a small workspace across town, far from the old office. The room was plain, containing only a desk, a laptop, and a whiteboard filled with notes. Names connected by arrows covered the surface: investors, clients, competitors. Daniel discovered patterns quickly. Amir had moved fast after the takeover, expanding aggressively, promising rapid growth. The strategy impressed the market, but Daniel knew something others did not. Amir often rushed decisions when pressure increased. That habit had once created problems Daniel quietly fixed behind the scenes. For the first time, Daniel realized how much balance he had provided. The thought gave him an idea. Revenge would not come through confrontation. It would come through exposure. If investors began questioning Amir's judgment, confidence would weaken naturally. No shouting, no public drama, only truth revealed at the right moment. Daniel gathered information carefully, making sure everything remained legal and factual. Old reports showed risks hidden beneath optimistic projections. Emails from former clients hinted at concerns about delivery timelines. None of it was scandalous alone, but together it painted a fragile picture. He organized the evidence into a single file, precise and clear. Sending it anonymously to key investors could change everything. Yet as the plan took shape, Daniel noticed changes within himself. He stopped enjoying simple things. Meals tasted bland. Music felt distracting. Even victories in small freelance projects brought no satisfaction because his mind stayed fixed on Amir. Revenge had become the center of his routine, quietly replacing the passion that once drove him to build something meaningful. One evening, while meeting an old colleague named Farah for coffee, she studied him carefully. "You look tired," she said. "Not physically. Mentally." Daniel dismissed it at first, but she continued gently. "You used to talk about ideas. Only talk about proving something." Her words stayed with him long after the meeting ended. Walking home, he wondered when his future had started revolving around someone else's failure instead of his own growth. Still, the plan moved forward. Weeks later, Daniel learned about a major presentation Amir's company would host for international investors. It was the perfect opportunity. Confidence would be highest, expectations strongest. A well-timed disclosure could create doubt at the exact moment trust mattered most. Daniel finalized the file that night, reviewing every line repeatedly. It contained no lies, only truths arranged to reveal risks. Amir preferred hidden, he imagined. The outcome clearly, investors growing uncertain. Deals slowing down. Amir facing the same helpless confusion Daniel once felt. The thought brought a brief sense of justice, but another feeling followed. Hesitation. Daniel remembered early mornings when he and Amir celebrated small wins together. Amir had not always been distant or calculating. He'd been ambitious. Yes, but also loyal once. Somewhere along the way, ambition had outweighed friendship. Daniel wondered whether success had changed Amir or simply revealed who he had always been. The question unsettled him. Late that night, Daniel sat alone in his workspace staring at the send button on his screen. Rain tapped softly against the windows again, reminding him of the night everything changed. Months of preparation had led to this moment. One action would complete his plan. He imagined life afterward. Would he feel relief? Pride? Closure? Instead, he felt tired. He realized revenge had quietly tied his emotions to Amir's existence. Every step forward depended on looking backward. Even victory would keep the betrayal alive because it would always define why he acted. Daniel leaned back, closing his eyes. For the first time, he asked himself a question he had avoided. Was he trying to restore fairness, or was he trying to escape pain? The answer was unclear. His phone buzzed with a notification announcing Amir's upcoming presentation. The timing felt almost symbolic. Everything was ready. The decision waited only for him. Daniel reopened the file, reading through it one final time. Each sentence represented effort, anger, and sleepless nights. Heart steady, but heavy. Outside, the rain stopped, leaving the city quiet. The moment he had planned for so long had finally arrived, and instead of satisfaction, he felt the weight of choice pressing harder than the betrayal itself.